Okay, today we're going to discuss about automation tools. So when you're saying automation tools, suppose if I create any record or update any record, so I want to automatically update or like do some actions immediately based on certain criteria or after some time. After I do some action here, after some time I wanted to do some other actions. For example, I created account now. From the time I created account, after 5 days, I need a mail, kind of a reminder mail or a follow-up mail saying that if certain criteria, this account record has met certain criteria, for example, hot, then I would like to do some follow-up task or follow-up mail saying that if something has to be done or some sort of a action I would like to do. Okay, so these are all automations because after 5 days I may or may not be there and it is not following with me. Like if I'm there, if I'm trying to do send an email after 5 days without a miss, I want to automatically happen from the system, sending an email or updating something or calculating anything that I wanted it to do immediately or after some time or kind of doing a follow-up calculation, anything that can be do from a system side without manual intervention once I do action. Those are all the automation tools. For doing those, we have all this three type of options: workflows, process builders, lightning flows. The order also, workflow is the simplest one and which is the oldest one as well. Process builder also advanced to the workflow and it is somewhat older and lightning flows are the latest one. I feel like Salesforce is working more onto this one to add more functionality into the flows and trying to stop supporting workflows and process builder, but already like so many orgs has been already using the workflows and process builder. It is not that easy, but as a developer or admin, you should be able to learn all these three. Either at any point of time you might need to work or you might need to migrate these two flows and all. So you should have a knowledge of all these three. Whatever the decision in the future, but for now, you should have knowledge on these three. Okay, let's get started with some mm, 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 Excel. I'm trying to define kind of what I would say here. First one is mm, automation, entry, criteria, actions, relation, rules. Okay, basically I wanted to differentiate in terms of these functionalities. Okay, first I will explain what is all this. This is either workflow, process builder, or a flow automation tool. Entry, when it should start and it will trigger. So you are defining a rule, and if that rule matches, okay, Then it will check the criteria. So this field value has to be this one. This value has to be matches to this one. So that criteria and actions, what we can do. Can we send an email? Can we do a field update? Can we create a record, create a task, outbound a message, do a charter post, submit for approval, call an apex? There are so many actions, big list of actions we have, and validation rules. So we have a validation rule already covered, right? So when we do this update, does this validation rule will be skipped or applied? Okay, those are all we are going to see differences. Okay, first one is a workflow. Workflow rules, actually we call it workflow rules when it will get triggered. So the triggering points are when record shit, when record is created, one option, or every time edited, created, or every time edited, created, or edited to subsequent meet criteria. Okay, so this is what for a workflow. That means, so the triggering points are whenever a record is created. So workflow we do for a single object. Okay, like if you have a rule that will be applicable for the two objects, you cannot combine it for a single rule. You have to write two rules, so we can write a workflow on an object. Or for selecting an object, then you can define a rules. So here, these are the steps. What is the entry? Entry should be like there are three options. These three are radio buttons. Three of them you have to. So you can see my screen and you can hear me. Hope. So in this trigger points, only when record is created. So it will trigger only if record is created. For all the time, you have to match the criteria also. You might have a criteria or you might not have a criteria. Doesn't matter, but this will just trigger it. Once it is triggered, then it will go to criteria, then it will go to actions. Okay, so now when the record is created, it will go to criteria. And second one is if it's created or edited, whatever happened, if it's met the criteria. Third one is created or edited to subsequently meet the criteria. That means the difference between a second one and third one is both are almost same. In both the cases, criteria has to be matched. But the third one, what is the difference is, for suppose your condition is the rating is, for example, the rating is hot, rating or what it is. If the rating is hot, if you try to edit and make some changes and save, what happens? It is already in hot. So when you give this condition or this condition, it is edited. So because I edited the record, so it will go to the rule, and the criteria you gave is rating equal to hot. So it will meet the criteria. But the difference between 2 and 3 is previously it is not meeting the criteria before you change, and with your changes only it is meeting the criteria. That is what it mean by third one. Second one is every time, like whether this changes turns this criteria into false to true or true to true, it doesn't matter. It just check the criteria. If it met, it will just execute. But in third one, previously it is not meeting the criteria, and only with your changes now, then only it's meeting the criteria, then only it will allow you to pass on to the criteria and execute the function. Okay, so here in the criteria, you can use filters or formula evaluation. Auto evaluation. You can do when you have filter evaluation, we can do a logical operation of filters are allowed. So that is what on this one. So on criteria, what we'll do, we'll select a list of fields. Okay, field 1 if matches the value 1. Field 2 matches value some value. And if you have like some kind of 4 filters, and among those 4 filters you can do AND operation or a logical operation between these 4 conditions we can do, or a formula evaluation. This formula evaluation means you can compare field to field, and if you have anything more complex, then you can write a formula evaluation like similar to validation rule. The outcome of this formula evaluation has to be true or false. If it is a true, then it will execute the actions. If it is a false, it will not execute the actions. Similarly, filter also, if it is matching that criteria, that means true, then it will go for actions. Otherwise, it will not happen. Not happen. Okay. What happened to this one? One second. What the hell? What? Oh no. Okay, criteria and coming to actions. What are the actions we can do from a workflow is one is field update, email alert, yet task. Fourth one is a outbound message. These four actions we can do in the workflow rules. And so in the entry criteria, any one of them you have to pick. In criteria, either filter evaluation or formula evaluation you have to check. And once both are done, if both are satisfying, then it will go to the actions. And in the actions, we can do these four type of actions. One is a field update, email alert, create task, or outbound message. I'll explain each one. Field update means on the same record, you can do a field update. On same record. In workflow rules, on the same record only, you can do a field update or a master record. Same record or a master object record only we can do a update. Email alert. We can send a email alert to the email fields or the owner or any user fields. We can send a email alert using the workflow rules. When they create a task, if you have already explained what are tasks on any of the record, we will be having a task or activities. So here we have here right activity section in the account you have activity. Here you have a new task. Here what we can do, here you can create a task. Let's say um, follow up on August 10th. Due date is 10th. And here you can select who is the contact and all. Contact or leads. You can just pick the contact, and by default it is going to be the same account and assigned to myself by default. And the status is saying not started. And if I do a save, I can see the in my activity list, and on 10th I will get a reminder to complete this task. Similarly, this kind of task I can create it from a workflow rule by defining all these values. What is the subject? What is the due date? On which account and which contact and who is going to do this task? Everything I can do it from a workflow rule. Okay. Hmm, and that is a create task. Outbound message. Outbound message is something we do a call out. Call out means for any third party systems outside a Salesforce, any other orgs or any other platforms. If you want to communicate something based on what is happening in the workflow. For example, on creation of a record, you'd like to send the information of the record to a outside of a Salesforce with some body in an XML format. Then we'll use an outbound messages. So it will be having a payload. So what is the information, what happened, everything you will be sending to a third party system. That is what a outbound message will do. Now, coming to a validation rule. So when we're saying validation rules, so among these four actions, which action will involve with the validation rule? Email alert, there is no involvement with the validation rule. Create task also, nothing with the validation rule. Outbound message, No relation with the validation rule. Only field update. When you're trying to update a field, whether it will, if your field updates are violating any of the validation rules, that is only we are considering. So in simple terms, validation rules are bypassed in workflow rule field updates. Okay, in workflow rule field updates, as per the Salesforce flow or order of flow, the validation rules will not be fired when you have field updates in a workflow rules. Okay, so when you update, by the time of your update, if you are violating any of the validation rule, then it will show the error message. But at the point of your saving, there is no violation. But when the field is trying to update, that is violating a validation rule, that validation will not be triggered. But again, in the same record, it's already updated. And if you're trying to change the record, so you are saving manually, right? At that time, it will throw a validation. But whatever it is doing on a field update, it will not fire a validation rule. So in simple terms, I have a validation rule that says on my account, if rating is hot, then the revenue or the annual revenue should be about 10 million. Okay, if I have such a rule, for example. Okay, if it's a rating is hot, then my expectation is annual revenue should be 10 more than 10 million. Okay, but so when I'm trying to save the record, it will check, okay, if it's hot, okay, the annual revenue should be somewhere around more than 10 million. Then if it's not, then it will stop me. But sorry, if I'm giving 11 million here, so it will not violate and save. But I have a validation rule. What I'm saying, if rating is hot and ownership is public, then the annual revenue should be 5 million. For example, I'm just giving some random one. Okay, that means what you are setting up annual revenue as 5 million from the workflow. But when you try to update, it is actually violating because the rating is hot and you're trying to update annual revenue is 5 million. So our expectation is to fire validation rule, but in the terms of order of execution, validation rules will not fire when you do a field update from a workflow rule. And it will save as a 5 million. And again, when you try to save some other information, again, the validation rules will fire saying that because it's hard, annual revenue should be more than 10 million. I'm just giving you knowledge. So if you have something you're trying to do update from workflow rules, it will not, it will bypass the validation rules in the field update. So you need to be somewhat additional care you need to take what are validation rule and how the field updates you're doing on a validation rules. Okay, okay, before going back to a process builder and flows, we'll quickly take a look on how we create a workflow rules and all. First step is to go to setup and search for workflow rules. Here you can see workflow rules. In a workflow rule, just it will explain what is the workflow rules and all. Okay, so we can create a new rule, and here also we have some guidelines and tips and modules that you can learn how to build workflow rules and all. I'm creating a new rule here. Continue with the workflows and continue with the create a flow builder. So every time you try to create a workflow or a process builder, Salesforce suggestion is to stop using the workflows and process builders and use a flow builder only. But here is our learning purpose. Continue with the workflow rules only. And here, first step, you have to select the object. Okay, have account object. And on the account object, my rule is hot account annual revenue is 5 million. I'm just giving some update. Okay. So here I have a three evaluations, three type of evaluation: created or every time it's edited, or created and any time it's edited to subsequently meet the criteria. So I'm selecting a created one. Criteria is met or a rule evaluates to true. So I'm giving a criteria. Here I'm taking the account rating. So where you see the rating, where is it? Here, account rating is equals to hot. So what it's saying, not equal starts with contains less than. All the options you have, you can use any of them. And save and next. So my rule is whenever the account is created, if it is a hot, then come and do actions. Yeah, one thing I missed. There are two parts of it. One is immediate actions, and one is the time-dependent workflow actions. Okay, here I would say immediate actions or consolidate over here. Immediate actions is one. Time-based actions. Time-based actions also have a same list. Okay, time-based actions. Okay, coming back here. Here, I would like to add action saying a new task, and this task is assigned to whom? This by, okay, subject. So we have a batch for subject is account creator, or I would say art account creator, the nickname, due date. Due date should be created date plus 3 days. Okay, and prior should be normal and status should be not started. And comments, this is fired from workflow rule. Okay, and doing a save. So I have a task creator from a workflow rule. And next step is, so if you have more actions you want to do, you can add more actions. So have a task, email, field update, outbound message. If you want to pick any of the existing action also, you can pick. Okay, and you can add a time trigger. This time trigger is saying, so what is a time trigger? When the rule trigger, from there, you want to add after. That means plus, you have hours and days. For example, I have hours, and after 3 hours, I want to give a time trigger. That means these actions, whatever the actions that you add here, these actions will be fired after 3 hours from this rule has been met. or it's executed. Till the time it will be in the time-based workflow queue. You see this monitor, time-based workflow rules. The actions will be queued here, and when it has to be fired, it will be mentioned there. And what is the workflow rule and what is the record, everything will be mentioned there. Till the time it executes, it will sit in that queue. And at any point of time, if you want to remove those queued actions, you can directly go here and you can delete there. Okay, so here I have a task creator, and here I would like to add a field update. And this field update, I would like to see what will update on the account. An account, we have any kind of a notes or something. Description. Okay, on update description. Okay, unique name, description. What should be your, this description is not account description. This is description about your field update. Okay, I'm not worry about that. So what is the field you're trying to update? Description field I'm trying to update, and what is the value? Here we have two things. Here you want to update with a blank value or use a formula to update this field. So this should be, what should be your formula? You have a description, right? So along with the description, I'd um, like to add one break and break, and then add my message is add on description after 3 hours. Okay, I just